How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Shifting Lanes. My name is Hanson. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm here at the 2019 IPD Garage Sale, and I ran across a really unique car. And I found the owner, Nick, here. And you can see this Volvo. Doesn't look brand new, but it's very, very special. So, Nick, how you doing, man? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, man.
Can you tell me more about this burnt out, melted Volvo?
Yeah, this is a 57 Duett that came from Paradise, California, that got burned in the campfire. A huge forest fire. It destroyed the town of Paradise. There were 85 people who lost their lives in the fire. They couldn't get out at time. It happened very rapidly. No one expected. About 48-hour period of time, the whole town and the area up there was wiped clean. The story is Grandpa bought the car brand new in 1957. It was his first car when he was 26 years old, and he drove nothing but Volvos ever since that day. And he had done all his homework. He bought this car new. He raised his family in it. He taught his kids how to drive it. And when he passed away a few years ago, he left it to his daughter, and his P1800 went to his son up in Seattle. And the grandson took after Grandpa hardcore. He became an auto mechanic just like Grandpa, loved Grandpa, and wanted to give his mom a present. So he said, "Mom, I'm going to take the car to my house. I'm going to get it running and drivable for you so you can drive it again and enjoy it." So he had gone completely through it, and all he had left to do was put the gas tank in it. And he'd taken Mom around the block, and she was thrilled. And then the Paradise fire hit, and he didn't have enough time to get it out in time. He said if he would have had a gas tank, he would have driven it over his truck out of there. But he had to leave it behind, and as you can see here, this is the picture when they were allowed back into Paradise from the fire, and this is his home, what's left of it. These pieces of aluminum down here on the ground. This is the transmission casing from an Isuzu Tracker that was on the property. It was on a hill, and so it just melted out and poured out from underneath it.
It just shows you how hot the fires were.
Exactly. So they were devastated, obviously, and they didn't know what to do, and they posted a picture on Facebook of the car, and I reached out to them, and they were willing to part with it. So I was like, well, let me figure this out. I bought it, came down 2 months later from Portland, picked it up with the family, got to meet Cameron, the grandson, and we got to hear the story about it. And it just, once we got there, it was like, this car has to live. It has to be done. So we brought it back, we tore it off the frame, we cleaned up all the debris, and we completely, if you look underneath the car, it's brand new. All fresh paint, all new lines, all new bushings, bearings, everything. It drives like a brand new car underneath. But we wanted to preserve the story of, one, the family, and two, of Paradise, because it's a piece of history, and it needs to be bookmarked. So we brought it back, completely restored it. The engine that's in it is the original engine. It survived the fire. All we did was replace the carburetors, distributor, water pump, and resealed it. And then this is actually the engine case of the snowmobile that Cameron owned that was on the property. We saved that. We made a nice little battery bracket out of it, and we literally 2 months after we picked it up, we fired this thing back up, and here she is today. We drove it over from the shop. Like, here's the original carburetors. As you can see, the float bowl just completely melted off of it, and this is all deformed. There's one of the springs from the front suspension right there.
Amazing.
And then, so we got it running, we got it going, and we went through. We customized the interior a bit. These are original seats. And we've used vintage road maps and some things we found, and the headliner is done completely in some road maps, and all the sales brochures were the family's original brochures that the grandpa had saved from the 60s and 50s.
That's amazing.
So we just made copies of those and put them up there to kind of, again, showcase the history of it.
That's fantastic.
Like you can see here, this is the original piece of glove box trim. It melted off. This was actually taken off by Lee, the original owner, the grandpa, probably in their late 60s, and was in a box in the back, so somehow it survived, and we had to replace all this, but we found, old parts that look comparable to the car. This fell out from underneath the dashboard when I was working on it. I figured that'd make a great key fob.
Yeah. It's amazing that it was able to just survive. It's forged through fire, basically.
Forged in the fire, yeah. And it's amazing, because I found other folks who lost their cars in the fire, and one guy said, I had a Mustang in my garage, and I pulled it out, pulled the motor out, and I found all 8 pistons in a puddle in the oil pan. So the fact that you can take this car, expose it to temperatures so hot that it melts the glass. This door was deformed. It was about 6 inches down here when we got it, and I had to slowly work it back into shape. And it runs. We didn't do the head gasket. The bearings are fine, as tight as it has tons of power. I'll drive this thing back down to California at the anniversary of the fire and back. That's the goal. So
That's incredible.
we got to put the glass back in it. I've got the glass. My guy just had to custom cut the windshields for me, and I couldn't get them in time, so I just figured I'd hold off on putting the rest of the glass in. So it's come a long way, but it's by far my favorite project.
Great, it fits it great. Like, it's funny because some of the parts are super nice, and other ones it's stupid. I think because it's high compression, and I had Simon.
Nursing Group, are you over there?
For it.
Head on over right here.
Oh, it's so hard, and you're like, this car doesn't need to be this fast.